Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Neil Adams. I serve as the Assistant Director of Cooperative Education in the Career Center. We're glad to have you joining us for the Job Search Strategy session this afternoon. Give me a clap or tell me you can hear me okay.
Oh, there we go.
Got a couple? All right, excellent. So we want to keep this session, conversational. We want to keep it interactive, and we want to make sure that we tie it to the information that you're most interested in hearing. So I'm going to give you a chance early on to tell us a little bit about where you are in your job search as students. But first, before we continue, I would like to introduce our staff members who are on the panel this afternoon. So Susan, Amy, and Elizabeth, would y'all like to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. My name is Susan Coles. I'm the director for the Career Center at Culver House, which is our satellite office in the business school. I've been on campus a number of years, and my main role right now is just overseeing the business school satellite office. So the employer development, things that we do, which touches on a lot of what we'll talk about today with job search. But we also have a mentoring program through Culver House Connections. And so I oversee the mentoring program as well. And I'm glad everybody's here today.
Hey, I'm glad to have you all here today. My name is Amy Ratliff, and I serve as the director of the Engineering Career Development Center. Our office is also a satellite from the main Career Center. We're very fortunate to have physical space in HM Comer to work with the College of Engineering. In my role, I have the honor of working with students and employers, overseeing the co-op program and any opportunities for students to gain experience while they are in school to help prepare them for life after they graduate. I've been on campus, well, I used to be proud to say that, but a little over 20 years, but I started when I was about 10. That number's going down a little bit now. So I've been on campus quite some time and have been in the career and co-op world for about 12 years. Glad to have you here today.
Hey everyone, my name is Anna Elizabeth Pope, and I'm a career advisor in the satellite office at the Career Center at Culver House. I have been in my role getting close to 2 years now, and I work one-on-one or in groups with students, helping them get ready for their job search, their applications through resume reviews, mock interviews, job search strategies, anything for career preparation we meet with students on. So I'm excited everyone's here.
Thank you, everybody. So as you can see, we have some outstanding resources, and we are looking forward to helping you a little bit this afternoon. So students, if you don't mind, we do want to hear from you as we begin the session. So I'm just going on the order of my screen. Jade, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, I'm Jade. I'm actually a senior at UA. I'm supposed to graduate this coming December, and so my job search is really starting to kind of heat up, and maybe not the best of circumstances. I am a history and religious studies major with minors in computer science and math. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Excellent, thank you. Sydney, are you able to tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Hi guys, sorry, it took me a second to get on the queue. So I am a incoming sophomore. I'm an MIS major, so I'm a little early to the game, but I thought this would be a great resource to just keep in mind as the time goes on. So not really looking for a job right now, but maybe for internships. I thought this would be useful. So thank y'all for being here and for doing this with us.
Absolutely, excellent. Ariana, are you able to tell us about yourself?
I'm about in the same boat. I'm just looking for internships and any resource that's available right now, and I'm an accounting major.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us again. Daniel, what about you? Can you hear us okay, Daniel? Saw your mute come off.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good, man.
I just graduated in computer engineering back in May, and so I am at home looking for a job kind of in the Huntsville area.
Great place to be looking.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thank you all. So I'll go ahead and start with the first question, if y'all don't mind. And any of the three panelists, y'all feel free to jump in to start. So what is the most important starting point when you're thinking about the job search process?
I'll go ahead and kind of key in on this, since this was a hot topic for me yesterday as we were preparing. You know, in thinking about the very most important things is prep work and being prepared to enter the job search process. It's not something that you necessarily just haphazardly walk into. There is a multitude of areas that you need to consider. One being very basic is you need to have a really well organized resume that you'll be able to share with employers. I always encourage students to have a foundational resume where that's kind of the basis of all resumes that they can start with. And they can actually use that resume and morph or change it as they need to apply to certain positions that may need more specification. So that's kind of one of the main things is start with a really good resume and do the prep work. Ask yourself the questions. You know, what is it that I want out of a job search? Is there a specific location? Is there something that I absolutely, you know, it is a deal breaker for me. I'm not willing to work weekends. I don't want an outside job. Whatever it may be that you kind of have that prep work, the foundation. A resume is key, and having those questions already answered about what you're looking for out of a search is very important. And so I typically would encourage students to say, okay, where is it that I want to live? What type of job do I want? Is location a deal breaker? Is salary a deal breaker? Are benefits a deal breaker? I have a lot of students that will come to me and say, it's very important to me that the company that I work with is engaged in the community. So if that's something that's important to you, that helps to navigate the search a little bit more. One thing, so in other words, kind of the bringing that all back in is knowing what you want. And the other part of that, I would say, is researching. You know, that's kind of, you got to have that prep work and the research before you can actually step forward and actually conducting the search.
I think the thing that I think Amy touched on a lot of what you need to think of, you know, beginning your job search. I think one thing that sometimes when I meet with students, I realize that they may not put as much time into because it just doesn't naturally seem like something you would automatically think of, but it's actually getting to know yourself to the point that Amy was saying about, you know, what is it that you want in a job? What are your values? What are your skills? We always tell students to research employers and research. So you will probably have so many places to go to find out about a company or a specific job or a city that you want to live in or an industry that you want to work in. But don't forget to kind of do a self-check on who you are and what you want, and make sure that those jobs or that industry, that company aligns with who you are. And so really look at the job description and determine, does that seem like, you know, that's something that that I would really enjoy, that I would get fulfillment out of. And again, you know, your jobs right out of school, you know, it may not be that dream job, but you want to have a job where you connect with it. And it's very easy to find those jobs that you can have your values and your skills put to play.
Excellent. Yeah, so it's important to get to know what your priorities are as you begin the job search. And I'll just, add a short caveat there. It's okay to not have all the answers about yourself, but it's really good to think through what your priorities are and realize that those may change over time, and that's okay. But it's really, really important to start the process by figuring out which direction you want to head and what your priorities are through that. So um, again, be thinking of some questions that you have, students, but I'm going to ask one more. We hear how important networking is to the job search process, but I just don't know where to start with networking. Can somebody touch um, on how I can start the process of networking and building relationships with people that would be able to help with the job search process?
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit, and feel free, Miss Susan and Miss Amy, to jump in anytime. There's a couple of different ways that you can start the networking process. I know a lot of students come in early on their freshman and sophomore year asking this question, so it's great that we have some students that are here starting in that early process and on through whenever they've graduated and starting to look for that first time position, because you can start this anytime. One of the biggest things that we tell students is to utilize all of the resources on campus so you can make that connection with employers that are coming, to our career fairs, to events that we hold in our main office and our satellite offices, and really check Handshake to see who is going to be on campus. That it might be a position that you want to work for, a company that you want to work for, and you can start networking that way. Another great way to network is through LinkedIn. I know a lot of students have this resource or have their profile ready to go, but that's another resource for you to kind of get touched in on. Touching a little bit on LinkedIn, and I might be getting ahead of myself. This might be a question for later on. I'm not 100% sure.
No, this is great. Yeah.
But for LinkedIn and Handshake, I wanted to touch on the fact that whenever you get your resume and you're getting ready to apply for positions and you're getting prepared, of course, you're going to make sure that resume is polished, but also take a look at those professional accounts that you have as well and make sure those are just as polished as well. So whenever you do start sending out applications and whenever you do start this networking process, everything is kind of cohesive and matches. So recruiters can go from one profile to the other if they want to look at it, and everything is seamless. So that's kind of my little touch point on that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Don't underestimate recruiters, because once you actually enter that phase where you're actively recruiting, whether it's internship or full-time entry-level positions, recruiters will look at you any way they can find you. So if that's through LinkedIn, if it's Handshake, if they're just doing a Google search of you, you need to make sure, as Anna Elizabeth said, that everything is polished, that you have the web presence that you want to speak on your behalf. That is so incredibly important. So take the time to prep ahead of time and get those profiles built out as well as you can. Have an appropriate headshot. The Career Center, I'm not sure what we're going to do about headshots in the future. That's a question I haven't actually heard anybody talk about, but there are ways to have an appropriate headshot for your LinkedIn or Handshake profile. Make sure that you've got a solid background. I wouldn't necessarily say sit in front of my picture in the window or art, but have a solid background. Wear something that's professional. You're looking at shoulders and head post in your LinkedIn and Handshake profile. Make sure that it's complete and that it's well put together and well thought out, and also be very familiar with what's on your profile and that you share, because once you engage in that recruiting process, you want to be able to speak on what you actually shared online. You don't want it to be caught off guard. So don't add any fluff that's not correct. You want to make sure that it is accurate, it's well thought out. For LinkedIn, one thing I have started encouraging students to do is, if they can have someone speak on their behalf or give some kind of comment for them, that's always a good way to boost their profile. and to keep that up to date as much as possible. But employers are looking. If you haven't done it, I encourage you to go out to Google and just Google yourself and see how your name comes up and see what kind of pictures are out there. It's always a good way to prep and know what's out there.
And I think the only other thing that I would add is don't forget about your own personal network. I mean, you've got so many built-in networks on campus. So anything that you're involved in, any of your student organizations, whether, regardless of what that is, if you're involved in, Greek life or service, organizations through your college, make sure to connect with those other students, your advisor. Faculty are great resources. They stay connected, with industries and just getting to know them. I've heard so many students that really, are kind of surprised when they talk to a faculty member and they know, people out in the industry that they can give advice, or maybe grad school, if that's something that you're thinking about. So professors are a great way to do that. And then reach out to family members or friends of family. I've had so many students who have dreaded going to a Thanksgiving dinner or some family function, and they end up talking to a family member that they haven't seen in a million years and find out that they actually are in an industry or know somebody that works for a company that they're interested in. And so just letting family and friends know that you're interested in a certain, type of job, or just interested in getting a job or an internship, you would be really surprised at kind of their own network and web and who knows who. So don't forget kind of the obvious ones that are probably just right in front of you.
It's also very important, as Anna Elizabeth said earlier, to take any opportunity if employers are on campus, any type of event, networking, information session. I mean, you have done one of the very first primary things you could do, and that's engage in trying to, figure out exactly how to do this, meet with career consultants, have those connections, have those conversations. A lot of what you will find in your job search will be about the connections you've made and the impressions that you've made. We used to have an ambassador. I don't know if Neil, if you will remember this, but we had an ambassador that said, I didn't really like the first part of it, but it's important to share here. He said, it's not about the grades you make, it's about the hands you shake. And I always thought that was really interesting because he was an engineer, which was great. But the importance of that was it's not just about grades. It's not just about the academic side. It's about the well-rounded viewpoint that you're bringing on things and the connections that you're making through those leadership organizations, as Susan said, and through your faculty and conversations you're having with potential employers. We have had employers tell us that they hire people because they showed up to any and every event they had. I mean, the persistence is what they're looking for. So if they have an event on campus or they have an information session that's virtual, go to it. Be there. Send thank you notes. Those are some of the greatest things you can do.
And I'll just add to that, with regard to something like LinkedIn, be sure that you follow employers. If you've identified a short list of employers you may be interested in, or if you've identified employers in certain areas that you may be interested in, follow them on LinkedIn, as well as check out their websites for job postings, student experience pages, that type of thing. That's a great way to follow how companies are engaging. And with LinkedIn, it's never too early to begin the process of kind of fleshing out your profile a little bit. You want to have that in place before you get to, a time when you're really trying to leverage your connections. You want to already have those connections in place if possible. So it's never too early to begin that process. The other thing I wanted to touch on there really quickly was the ability for you through some of these platforms to just reach out to people that you may not even know, but you may have a connection with. For example, through LinkedIn, you can search for graduates of the University of Alabama at a certain company, and you've got, kind of a ticket as a student where you can send them a message over LinkedIn say, I'm a student in Alabama. I see that, you're working for this company. Could you tell me a little bit about your journey and how you got there? The formal name for that, is just kind of a quick informational interview question if you're reaching out, but it's never going to hurt you to try and create connections by doing a little bit of research and just being willing and able to, send a cold message or something like that.
Neil, to echo off of that or to piggyback, I've had more than one employer tell me that they are leaning more heavily on LinkedIn than ever since COVID, and everyone is working remotely, virtually. They are relying on that as a virtual networking tool to find students and to engage. And I've actually had 2 employers reach out to me via LinkedIn since the pandemic and us working remotely that want to establish communications and conversations with the UA about recruiting. So I think that they're out there and they're looking, so it's a great way to establish those communications.
And one thing I thought about too is for those of you, whether it's a job, full-time job, and you've just graduated, or it's an internship and you're just starting the process, don't be discouraged because, it's, everybody's talking about COVID and when you look at Handshake alone, and I would imagine, other sites could very well mirror Handshake, but we have hundreds of jobs that have recently been posted. So when you go online, it's not jobs that have been out there, and if you apply, they're going to say, oh, we posted that last fall and, we're not hiring. I mean, you can go on and see ones that have been posted within the last couple of weeks or within the last few days, jobs and internships. And so those are out there. It might be some for internships might have been delayed this summer. I've heard of full-time hires that have been delayed, maybe to the fall, same with internships. But don't be discouraged about the market we're in now, because there are companies and industries that are still hiring. You just may have to widen your scope. And so if it was the airline industry that you wanted to get in, that may not be, the one right now, but there's other industries that have not been affected like some others. And we're seeing that on Handshake with the jobs and internships that are posted. And reaching out to any of us, we can get you a job list, a link to current jobs, that you could, a spreadsheet that you could go through and then find those on Handshake and internships. So I just want, I think this is great that you've joined to get a jump start or, wherever you are in the process, but don't get discouraged.
Thanks, Susan. All right, students, so I want to turn it over and just see what questions you all have at this point. So y'all feel free to either unmute or type in some questions in the chat. I definitely have some more if you don't.
I'll go. I have a question. So again, I'm graduating in December and I'll be moving to San Antonio. I have a question about just timing the process. And so I know that there are applications that will say, applications closed December 2020, but I'm just having trouble timing the process. If I'm excited about a job, what kind of negotiation is there about my start date and kind of having that talk with the employer? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Susan might have some thoughts on this. My initial thought would be to say, most employers, if you have denoted on your resume that you're graduating in December, they would understand that you're not going to be available until that particular point in time, so that the recruiting that you're going through is with that understanding. So I don't think that that's going to be a huge issue unless you're applying for something that specifically says, I want someone to start in August. But, if you're applying to things that say that it's an open position and you are legitimately offering that you're a December graduate, I really don't think that's going to be an issue for you because most will be understanding of that.
Yeah,
And quite honest,
that would be, they'll see your grad date on your resume, and so they would know that. And to me, it's never too early. So it's, I mean, I see students that apply for jobs in the fall and they're graduating in May, you know, and there's offers made, or internships. People get offers the summer prior to graduation. Some industries don't even start recruiting until the semester that, you know, that they're looking to hire for. So it kind of depends on what you're interested in, but they'll realize, you know, that you're a December grad, and you know, starting now is just going to help you, you know, make sure that you've kind of looked at all the opportunities and you found a good match that's good for the company but good for you too. And
Okay,
there's
cool.
a lot, and I've had plenty of students too that, you know, everybody seems to think that May, you know, that's when the majority of people graduate, and so yeah, there might be, I don't want to say more opportunities, but there's plenty for December too. I mean, we do December first destination, you know, our who's graduated and who has jobs, and we collect that data for December, and it's really not much different than May. So that shouldn't be a big effect either.
no, I see a lot of people that will start with January or June starts
Mhm.
based on what the recruiting season is. So I really feel the same way.
I'll jump in here too real quick. I was a December grad. I went to the university and I graduated in 2017, and I was a December grad, and I have students ask me all the time, like, when do I need to start looking? If I'm graduating in December, when should I start? When's the best time to start? And sometimes, and this could be totally wrong, but I say go ahead and start looking and seeing what's available on Handshake, because not every company has the same deadline for their applications, but that doesn't mean that their opportunities don't begin in December. So just keep a watch on it, and anything that's interesting to you that's listed on Handshake as an opportunity, or any other platform that you're going through. But definitely Handshake, because you don't want to miss out on something just because they have an earlier deadline for their application, even though they're not starting until December.
Okay, thank you. This has been encouraging.
Yes.
Do y'all mind if I go as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Sydney, go ahead.
Okay. Also, Jade, I'm from San Antonio. You're going to love it, and you're going to have the best time. So if you need any help or have any questions about like fun restaurants or anything, ask me in the chat. I don't know. But yeah, so my question is, I currently have an internship with a food bank in Birmingham, and I'm doing Salesforce stuff, so, you know, MIS related. And I'm hoping next year to hopefully get an internship with another, you know, maybe a bigger company, something, you know, in the, you know, the big four, like PwC, EY. A lot of my friends are getting those internships. So I was just curious what things I can do at my internship now that will help me get that, you know, another internship in the company I really like to work for later on in the process.
I think what I would do first of all is go look at, if you can find one of the job descriptions of, say, PwC or EY, if it's one of their positions for MIS, which all of the big four have those. Look on Handshake and see if you can find what that job description is. If you can't, you know, reach out to the Career Center at Culver House, and we can go in and find that if they're not, you know, active right now. But that's going to give you an idea of, are they looking for GPA? Are they looking for leadership? What skills? It's going to be great that you've already had an internship, so you're already ahead of the gang as far as that goes. But just, to me, being able to look at a job description almost like a cheat sheet, to not say that's the only thing I'm going to, you know, do, but it does give you kind of a roadmap of what you can be doing now for that next, you know, for that next opportunity. And so that I would definitely say, if you could find, you know, talk to some friends if you know of anybody that, or even some of the, I can't think of the guy's name, that Greg Cottrell, or some of the ones that are in MIS, we can give you those names. They're going to know that as well. But you're already off, to a great start with that. And we're going to have opportunities. I think a lot of the Big Four are going to be recruiting virtually this year. So be on the lookout for any virtual opportunities to connect with them. Any of them, just like I think Amy said, the more you get in front of them and they get to know you, the better opportunity you're going to have. I've had so many students that's what employers say is they were at every, you name it, lunch, office hour, info session, MIS meeting, SOMS, whatever it is, and that's going to show your interest. So, but we'll be glad to try to track down a job description to help you, see if there's things you can kind of target in on your current internship.
Thank you.
Another thing too, if we have time for me to jump in real quick.
Yeah, for sure.
We have a lot of recruiters that come to the office, and students always will ask, how do I stand out from an internship that I did against, the other students that might have the same responsibilities day to day. And something that has always stood out to me, I cannot remember what company it was, but I'll always remember what one recruiter said. And he said, if you can get to know every single person, talk to them, maybe ask them out to coffee if you feel comfortable, what that'll do is it'll network with them, and it might create a little bit of a good relationship moving forward, to where you might have a different responsibility for as far as a project that you can work on that somebody else might not be able to, that you can add on to your additional responsibility that you were given to begin with. So any little assignment or project, if it's offered to you as an option, take those and do your best. It's not going to be something totally over the top you won't be able to do, but anything that would differentiate you and say, while I was there, these were my responsibilities, but in addition, I was able to do this as well. So I think networking through your internship and being able to utilize the people in the office as far as mentors and helping guide you through that process as well could open some doors to enhance what you're doing there at your internship.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
The consistent thing that we hear from recruiters as they search for students for postgraduate positions is that they want students with experience. And I think the important factor in why they want students with experience is because they know that you can simply be an effective employee. And so to tie that into your question, if you can tell your story and articulate what makes you an effective employee at the food bank, and think about those transferable skills as they apply to any other jobs, communication, teamwork, the things that you really think of as soft skills, that's a big part of what companies look for. And so be able to tell your story through that as well.
Thank you.
A good question.
And I think to a little bit in addition to that is, if you look at a job description or your internship, and this sounds simplistic, but it really does help you tell the story to another employer about what you did. But if you're able to go in and really look at the things that you can say, that I was able to do, I could give you a concrete example, and really be able to do that. Tell me a time when. It's going to help them visualize, to Neil's point, those transferable skills. If you say in an internship that you did a specific job for that internship, and another employer may not have that same job, but you can say what you gained from it. So let's say you worked in a team and y'all, reached some kind of goal, whatever it is. That goal may not be the same for your next internship, but if you can talk about what I really learned was how I interacted with team members that were not like me. And so, I really understood team dynamics now, so that when I move into this other job or internship, what you gained from that previous internship is going to be those transferable skills and not necessarily that project that may not be the same thing at the next job, if that makes sense. So think about those transferable skills. And I had an employer that did mock interviews for us one time, and that's what he said. He said, a lot of students will give the results. I increased efficiency 5%, I did this, but what they want to hear is what you can bring to their organization. And so sometimes that takes a little bit of thought, but it's, it's easy if you think about it.
Okay, thank you guys so much.
Mm-hmm.
I've got another question, but I wanted to open it back up if anybody. Oh, and Ariana, I'm going to send you my email in the chat, and we can touch base after about making sure that your handshake gets set up. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so our next question, where is the best place to look for job postings, and how can you find those places to start looking for job postings?
I'll just chime in. I know we've talked about LinkedIn and Handshake, but if you know, for instance, somebody, I think it may be Daniel, is in Huntsville, perhaps, looking at the Huntsville Chamber of Commerce and different websites for surrounding areas. A lot of times they're going to have job boards. They may list the top companies in the area. Maybe it's not a specific job board, but they're going to have news about new companies that are opening, new industries that are there. So a lot of cities will post information. And so you may find a company that's not one of those top ones that is in your city. There may be another company that you notice that you can link to their website to see if there's job opportunities. And I think the thing that I would say with that is probably the advice that I would have for you that I've just heard from students, all these years, is it's better to target your job search and look at these companies and do the research like we've talked about. And instead of spreading the net wide and sending 100 emails with resumes attached, that the resume isn't targeted, and some students get to where they feel like they're at desperation mode. And so I'll hear them say, I sent 50 job applications this week, and that would be frustrating, because how many of those would you actually want? How many are you actually qualified for? And so rather than being frustrated by the quantity, just narrow it down and target however many you can do a week, and really have it for the ones that you really want, so that I think your outcome is going to be a whole lot better and more efficient than just spreading the net and getting depressed that you've sent 500, of which you may only want 10. But, but definitely look, if you want to be in a city like San Antonio, or look at your Chamber of Commerce, your alumni groups, and look for additional, places outside of maybe LinkedIn and Handshake.
To kind of, again, piggyback off what Susan's saying, one of the very most important things you can do is it's about strategy. I mean, there is a job search strategy. And part of that is what we started off from the very beginning saying, be prepared and know what you're looking for, what you want, where you're targeting your search for. But as Susan said, it's very important to do things very well and very completely, instead of just throwing random resumes at 100 openings, but focusing in on 10 or 15 solid choices that you fit the criteria for, so that you can use your energy toward making the best resume and best personal attention to that particular posting. And one thing, as we prepared for this session, that we talked about was the need to be very organized in this process. And we all, and I say that we, the group that kind of got together with this, recognize there's an importance of developing a spreadsheet. Any of y'all out there, if you'll do your little hand clap or raising, have you thought about creating a spreadsheet that lists who you've applied for, where you have looked, have you applied via Handshake, LinkedIn, the company job site? Have any of y'all created a spreadsheet to help organize this process? Jade's shaking her head no. I can't see, I'm seeing no hands go up. So, all right, so this was a good point to make. The spreadsheet, and I believe that's something that can be very easy to make, but the importance in that is that the job search process, as we talked about, is about strategy. And the strategy goes from beginning to end. It doesn't just start off strong, or it's in the middle it's strong, or in the end it's strong. You have to be very deliberate and intentional from the very get-go. And making a spreadsheet that has all the companies that you've explored, where you learned about the job posting, the title of the job posting, when you applied, if you heard back, if you corresponded with a recruiter, make yourself detailed notes so that you are able to keep track of where you are in the process with all of these companies. Quite honestly, a really good job search is very time consuming. I hate to say that it's a positive thing. You cannot just haphazardly go at this. If you are genuine about wanting to enter the workforce, it is about being diligent in the process and saying, okay, I'm going to devote an hour a day to researching, to making sure my resume is right, my profile's good. I'm sharing articles on LinkedIn. I'm writing down the notes of where I've seen or postings that have been posted. I've made communication with them. I followed up by email. I submitted my application online. All of that is going to help you present in a very well-formed candidate package. I mean, you're going to be able to offer everything they can that they're looking for. With recruiting, there is something very important that we don't always talk about, but you are not the only candidate. And I say that in the nicest manner, but quite often we forget that the candidate pools can be very large. So if you're one of 100, what is it that you're going to do to make yourself stand out from the crowd? And there's a positive way to stand out from the crowd, and there's a negative way to stand out from the crowd. So what you want to do is you want to be positive. You want to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. And that's to make sure your web presence is good, your resume looks good, you're following through with appropriate etiquette in emails. If they call you, you respond appropriately. I can't tell you how often employers will get frustrated because they've tried to reach a candidate and their voicemail box is full, or they're not responding to emails. So there's simple things that you can do. When I talk about the strategy, it's about being ready for whatever you face in that particular situation. And that's what's going to make you successful. So just doing those very basic things is very important. And as Susan said, you really have a variety of places that you can look. There's nothing saying you can't look on job boards like Indeed or Monster. I would say look everywhere. Just plant lots of seeds, but make sure you know what seed you planted in what place, so that you can actually follow back up appropriately. It's like, going to a garden and planting some seeds and not knowing what's growing in that particular spot. You want to know that that's who you reached out to, when you reached out, so that you can communicate coherently and present yourself in the best manner. So I recommend the spreadsheet. That's usually really popular in the College of Engineering. I don't know, maybe Daniel can tell me if that's popular. Daniel, I think you can handle a spreadsheet, can't you?
Yes, ma'am.
And I think Cal is also an engineering student. Cal, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I got two on here that can for sure give me a spreadsheet.
And maybe Jeffrey as well.
Sir.
All right. See, there we go.
So, students, feel free to jump in with questions, but Susan and Anna Elizabeth, is there anything that the two of you would like to cover that we've not yet mentioned? Or what do you hope is the most important information students take from this afternoon?
You want to go in, Elizabeth? You already did.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. One thing that we haven't touched on, I know we have some people looking for internships or might be looking for internships. And one resource I wanted to touch on really quick is Parker Dewey. This is another platform that you can use in your searching. It's a great platform. It's technically called micro internships, but they have a lot of opportunities on there for students to go and apply, just kind of like you would on Handshake. It's just a different platform. I'm not sure the exact statistics, but it's in the 80s or 90s percentile range that they're done remotely and they're paid. So it's good options. And recruiters have said that they would count as, you know, a full-time internship experience based on what you do, the transferable skills that you can show you learn from that you could bring to their company. So that's one thing I wanted to touch on really quick if anybody was looking for internships aside from full-time positions. One of the biggest things that students always are eager and ready to apply, but one of the biggest things we try to come across, and we've said it multiple times today, but I think it's the most important, make sure every resume and every cover letter that you're sending out is tailored to the position. I think that's one way to really, right off the bat, get you, you know, on the top of the leaderboard of candidates, because it shows that little extra initiative you took to make sure that you show that you're qualified, and it's a little bit of extra interest that you have by taking that initiative. Also, another small little thing is students will always say, oh, I sent in the wrong cover letter and the wrong resume to the wrong application. So you never want to do that. So I think the spreadsheet is a great way to make sure you have everything organized so you're sending the right tailored resume and cover letter to every position. I think that's one of the most important things to be able, without, you know, a lot of times students say, I can't sell myself unless I have an interview. Well, this is one way to sell yourself before you get to the interview process, showing that extra initiative that you took.
Yeah, and I think being a University of Alabama student, you've got so many resources. Your faculty, you know, you're getting a great education, and so employers already know that what you're learning in the classroom is going to prepare you for whatever job you want to do, whether it's in your major, not in your major, you know, just the foundation from your academics. And so taking advantage of all the other resources that you have on campus, things that we've talked about, any kind of experiences that, that you can get involved in. If you've already graduated or if you're just about to graduate, you know, kind of looking back and seeing the types of things that you were involved in and how you can express that to employers is just as important. I mean, you know, we talk about competencies and how your skills that you have that you take with you in your job search are just as important as, and sometimes more dependent on what the job is than your GPA. You can be the smartest person in the world, but if you haven't, you know, learned how to participate in a team or to communicate or have some self-awareness, whatever the competency set is, then you might be at a disadvantage. So there's so many resources. The Career Center is just one, but there's so many resources for you to take advantage of, and, you know, and just make sure that that you do that. I had a alum came back for a panel one time, and he said, the one thing I wish I would have done is participated in things on campus that were not just around people like me. And he said, because now, I think he was working in Chicago for a company, and he's like, you know, nobody's like me, everybody's different. And there was so many opportunities to engage with people that were not like him on campus, that he said that would have made the transition smoother. And so even if you've already graduated, reach out in your community and take advantage of, of those kinds of things. But also, we have so many resources in the Career Center. So if you go to career.ua.edu, Parker Dewey's on there just look under our resources tab. There's so many places that we have information that you can take advantage of. And also, make sure that you connect with your Career Center staff for your major. I can't tell you how many times we come across employers that may say, you know what, I'm looking for this type of, major with this experience. You could already be graduated. Anybody that's soon to graduate and have already graduated, we know your names. And if an employer comes to us, and I just had one email this morning looking for, a position in Birmingham for a company that they just started. And so if you get yourselves in front of us, then it's easy for me to go back and look and see who he's looking for and be able to say, oh, well, you know what? I met with so-and-so, or, Sydney was at a presentation today, and I think she may have what you're looking for. I'll shoot her an email and let her know that your job's out there. So anytime you can get in front of Career Center people, anybody, that's just going to help. But check out our resources on the Career Center page.
Well, thank you to Amy and Susan and Anna Elizabeth for your time. This is really helpful information. Students, do y'all have any additional questions? We have just a couple more minutes. I wanted to give a reminder that these Career Champion chats will continue through the week at noon. Tomorrow and Thursday, we'll have additional information on developing skills, as well as once you get through the job search process to the interview, how to make sure that the interview goes the way that you want it to. So let us serve you through the week as well. Thanks for joining us. Again, I am going to send some information after the session via email. So I've got everybody's email to follow up with that. And if you don't have any more questions, then we can go ahead and conclude.
Thank you for coming.
Excellent. Y'all have a good